On that note, let's turn to the day's business news. And well, the markets have been reacting to those latest developments in Iraq. To give us the context and tell us where things may go from here, we're joined by business editor Stephen Carlos. Stephen.
Eve, markets moved pretty fast once the news emerged of those attacks on those two bases in Iraq where US troops are stationed. We saw oil prices jump and stocks tumble in the immediate aftermath. Now, the oil markets have been tracking developments closely since Friday's killing of the Iranian general Qasem Soleimani. The international benchmark price for oil, Brent crude, jumped in the immediate aftermath of that, as you can see here, but continued to climb on Monday to over $70 a barrel. That's the highest level in 3 months. We had slight declines on Tuesday, but again, as news of those attacks on those bases in Iraq emerged overnight, we had another spike in oil prices, briefly pushing over that $70 a barrel level. Now, it has moderated since then. A short time ago, Brent was trading around $69 a barrel. That's up around 1% on the day. Gains too on WTI, West Texas crude as well. Now, the head of the oil-producing cartel OPEC says that there is no current risk to supply, but traders are still concerned. Selena Sykes explains why.
Oil exporters in the Middle East have been watching on with trepidation since the United States' assassination of Iran's most powerful general. The death of Qasem Soleimani in an airstrike in Iraq on Friday has sparked fears that escalating tensions in the region could affect global oil supplies.
The market reacts in anticipation. So operators, as we call them, take a position regarding different scenarios. So a scenario of a rise in violence is a reality.
Iran is a relatively minor oil exporter, but concerns are focused on the world's largest oil choke point, where Tehran could disrupt shipping in retaliation. The Strait of Hormuz off Iran's southern coast is vital for the region's main oil producers. Around a fifth of the world's oil supply flows through the waterway connecting the Gulf with the Arabian Sea. Iran has previously threatened the supply of oil passing through the strait. Last year, attacks on 2 tankers in the nearby Gulf of Oman saw a surge in oil prices. Exporters want to avoid a repetition of such market volatility.
The main oil exporters don't want a rise in prices. They want a price tag of $60 or $70 a barrel. That's good in terms of revenue and good for global growth.
Oil flows have so far not been disrupted, but markets are pricing in a probability of unrest as Iran vows to retaliate.
Well, let's take a look at what's happening on the stock markets next. In Europe today, markets starting the day in the red. Now, investors fearing that a conflict in the Middle East could affect the broader recovery story in the global economy. Banks, interestingly, among the biggest fallers on European markets as they start trading today. Asian shares, the trajectory there much more linked to the news from Iraq. But like with oil prices, some of the losses that were registered at the start of the day were recouped as the day went on. The Nikkei in Tokyo down 1.5%, Shanghai down, and the Kospi and Seoul down over 1% as well. Significant falls across the Asian markets there. Well, in a few hours' time, we're going to hear Carlos Ghosn speak publicly for the first time since he fled Japan. His arrest on charges of financial misconduct over a year ago led to his removal from the leadership of the car makers Nissan, Renault and Mitsubishi. Those companies, though, are still dealing with the fallout of that. At Nissan, Hiroshi Saikawa took over when Ghosn was arrested, but he too was forced to resign last September after it was found that his pay had been artificially boosted. His replacement is a man called Makoto Ushida, and he is having to deal with slumping global sales at Nissan and profits that have plunged to a 10-year low in the past year. At Renault, Ghosn was replaced by Jean-Dominique Senard as chairman and Thierry Bolloré as CEO. But Thierry Bolloré has since been sacked by the company and they're still looking for a successor for him as well. These big changes in management aren't helping the alliance of those car makers, once the biggest in the world in the auto industry, but it's now fallen to 3rd place. Moving on, Samsung Electronics says its operating profits fell by over 1/3 for the last 3 months of 2019. That's the 5th consecutive quarter of falling profits at the company, which is the world's largest maker of memory chips and smartphones. Things could be looking up for the South Korean giant in 2020, though. Industry experts expect the memory chip market to pick up this year as concerns ease over the US-China trade war and more manufacturers roll out 5G phones. And finally for me, the speaker company Sonos is suing Google, accusing the tech giant of copying its technology. Sonos claims that Google has reproduced its patented multi-room synchronization system in its speakers, as well as dozens of other patents. It wants the firm to stop selling a number of devices, including its smartphones and its speakers. Google denies what Sonos is claiming and says it will defend itself, but this is the latest accusation that big Silicon Valley companies are using their size to squash smaller rivals. Eve.
Indeed, not an easy, it's quite a daunting idea to take on Google. Stephen Carroll there with our business update. Thanks a lot for that.